Hey everybody, and welcome to a Monday edition. It's Jim, it's Amadeus. It was a interesting weekend. Lots of crazy stuff going on. We now know who the finals are going to be in the NHL for the Stanley Cup, and Florida and Edmonton will square off for Lord Stanley's Cup, and it's going to be a fun series. Not so much for ABC and ESPN, but it'll be a good win for the fans. So, Amadeus, let's talk a little bit about. It's been a long time since the Canadian team has won. Not a long time. It's been a while since the Canadian team won. Is is there a lot of buzz in Canada now about Edmonton?
Yeah, definitely. There's usually a lot of buzz during the Stanley Cup Finals
Hmm.
in general. Obviously, we're gonna have the second straight season with the Florida Panthers in the final, which
Yeah,
take that as you will. But absolutely, there's obviously it's been what 30 something years since the
yeah.
Canadian team won. So there's always going to be people that are a lot of hyped. Me, not so much myself, just because
Hmm.
I kind of wanted to see the stars in there because
Hmm.
Peter DeBoer and Joe Pavelski got a few of
Hmm.
my Sharks on there that I would have liked to see win a cup, but that just goes to show you how much the NHL hates the Sharks. They'll do anything. But yeah, no, it's great. Obviously, most of Canada is happy for Edmonton, but don't get me
Hmm.
wrong. Not every Canadian is cheering for Edmonton. There's a lot of people in Calgary that would rather see Florida take home this
Yeah.
cup, and I'm sure there's people in Montreal too who it's either the Canadians or nothing for Canada. So definitely it's polarizing, but I would say a majority is rooting for the Oilers up here.
Well, I mean, there's Canadians on Florida's on the Florida Panthers, so they're actual players from Canada on there. So that's
Majority of their team is Canadian, actually.
yeah, exactly, with the Russian goalkeeper. So doesn't everyone have a Russian goalkeeper? I mean, isn't that a
I
requirement?
feel like it's Russia, Finland, or like Sweden.
Oh,
Those
that's
seem
true.
to
Yeah.
be like the three goalie factories
Yep.
that nowadays,
Yep.
from
Yeah.
what I've noticed, right? And you know what, Finland, they've won quite a few gold medals in these junior tournaments and professional tournaments the last few years. So hey,
Hmm.
obviously they're doing something right on the ice in Finland, and it usually starts with the goalkeepers. So
Absolutely.
definitely,
Build their way back. Yeah. So.
exactly.
All right. Well, we will monitor that because, folks, it doesn't start until Saturday, so don't worry about it.
Got a whole week ahead of you.
A whole week ahead of you to break it down, and so there you go.
Had to start it on the Saturday.
Right. Not much soccer on the European side left, and but we were talking in the pre-show about this is a time when some of the European teams begin to scout the potential people that they're going to poach from other teams, or guys who might be out there who may not have been on the radar a few weeks ago, but suddenly now they are available, and maybe they pull them up.
Yeah, definitely. So the summer transfer window is approaching quickly,
Hmm.
and with that, you're going to get these types of things, especially in a Euro Cup year. There's nothing
Hmm.
better, really, as we saw 2 years ago when the World Cup was in Qatar.
Hmm.
There was a lot of players that made names for themselves in that tournament and ended
Right.
up getting signed by some of these larger European clubs because
Hmm.
maybe they weren't known that well before the World Cup,
Hmm.
but they performed well for their countries, and that's usually what you're going to see. So definitely, this is a big scouting time. Obviously, all the leagues have ended. Pretty much the
Hmm.
Champions League final on Saturday.
Right.
Congratulations to Real Madrid, but that signifies the end of the European season. Really, really supposed
Hmm.
to start the off season, but obviously not much of an off season. It's going to be a half
Hmm.
off season for some players this year with the Euro and Cup and
Hmm.
the Copa America. But yeah, absolutely. Teams are going to be looking at performance in this competition, and it's all going to be about because also with the summer transfer window,
Hmm.
contracts are expiring too. It's not just
Sure.
about this is our window to buy and sell players. contracts are expiring. Some players might just be leaving on their own on free transfers and go, like, obviously Mbappe is a free transfer this summer. Wherever he goes, he can choose wherever he wants. So, these are going to be the things, but definitely the Euro Cup is a great, and the Copa America is great because it really shines a light on some of these individual talents that maybe don't get the playing time at their domestic club, or are a lot better than they come across there. And when put in the right situation, they can really flourish. So that's always nice. And yeah, we're definitely going to see, there's going to be a lot of names you didn't know about prior to the cup. You say, oh, hey, this guy's having a great season. Like, I'll give you one. He doesn't get a lot of love over at Manchester United, but you watch when Scott McTominay, puts the shirt on for Scotland in this Euro Cup. He's looking like Messi out there for Scotch because he's been tearing up the Euro qualifiers over the last year.
Well, one of the things, and we've talked about this often, is that if you're if you're not on a great team, right, and you're a solid player, you can pass the ball to people and it goes past them or whatever, or they pass the ball to you in opportune times. But it's really being put in the right position to excel, and maybe that happens. When you're on your national team, all the players on that team earned their way on the national team. They know at this point, where do I need to get him that ball so he can, so he can take a shot, or what can I do to play better defense? I mean, these are the best of each country. So, it's only stands to reason that if you're playing with the best, at least it's going to make you look better.
Yeah, definitely. And chemistry is a big aspect too, in my opinion, just because, we've seen it many times. Brazil in the last World Cup is a great example. You can take some of the best players from every team across Europe and South America, and you put them together, and sometimes it just doesn't work. It doesn't stick well. And, maybe they'll overcome that for this Copa America. But as of right now, there's a chemistry issue. And everybody remembers that team a few years ago when Iceland, they were really good and came out of nowhere. Well, that was a team that didn't really have star talent, but they had chemistry and they played well together. And that's why they played so well and played themselves into positions to win. So definitely, individual talent is nice, but you're also going to see a lot of players elevated in this tournament because of the chemistry aspect. And maybe they're just, again, in this better situation where they're playing with someone who understands their game a bit better than someone at their domestic club.
Well, so now we still have some very important soccer to be played. Now that's something you're focusing on at this point. So let us in on what we should be paying attention to.
Yeah, we got so the Euro Cup is obviously going to be starting on June 14th. So there's a lot to watch there when the Euro Cup happens. Even the Copa America starts a week afterwards. So it's going to be very good
It's next week.
Yeah, pretty much. So it's basically 11 days now. So it's June 3rd. So yeah, it's coming up on quick. It kicks off on the Friday with Germany and Scotland as the first match. But there's going to be a lot to watch in this tournament. One of my personal favorites to win the Euro Cup this year is Spain at plus 800. I think Spain's going to be a team to watch in this tournament just because Spain's kind of been that team the last few years. A lot of people had them in the last World Cup. A lot of people had them in the Euro Cup prior to this one, the one that Italy won. And a lot of the appeal on Spain is, they have a young team, a lot of energy, a lot of young talent, and they have developing superstars. Now over the last few years, they failed at the last Euro Cup. They failed. They got stopped by, I believe it was Morocco at the last World Cup. Spain has kind of turned bettors off a bit, but I say that this is the time to grab them now because 4 years ago, they weren't ready to win the Euro Cup. 2 years ago, they weren't ready to win the World Cup. They just weren't. They were still young. But now their players, I would say, have developed more at their domestic clubs, but also on this team alone. You have that hurt from losing at the last Euro Cup. You have that hurt of getting past the group stage and losing to Morocco. Maybe not a flashy team, but Morocco's the best ranked team in Africa. So, those things, and especially a close neighbor like that to Spain, those are humbling experiences. They're going to draw from that experience. And these, again, these young players, they're not kids anymore is the other thing. Where 4 years ago, maybe they were, closer to 20 years old. Now these guys are closer to their prime age. And they've done nothing but develop the last 4 years. And Spain also won the UEFA Nations League last year in a very impressive feat. They beat Italy, and then they beat Croatia, who always seems to just come up short. But again, this is a solid Spain team. Now they have some experience of winning on their side to go with that hurt. And I like the value on Spain at plus 800. Everybody's going to bet the England and the France at plus 300, 400. And sure, look, England, when you look at the rosters, England and France have the two best rosters. Absolutely. But, France, funny enough, as dominant as France has been on the world stage, they really haven't won that much over the last few years. They went to the World Cup final. Yes, they lost. Last Euro Cup, they didn't even make it to the final. It was England and Italy. So this is what I mean. Everybody remembers because it's the same France team. It's the same players, but this isn't really they haven't won. They haven't had that relevancy in quite a few years now. So you got to wonder from the mental aspect where France is at, like, they're not coming into this like, oh, we won 2 of the last 3 turns. No, they're coming into this like, we won 2, and now we've kind of stalled, and we're coming up short now. What's happening here? So, and again with England, they went to the final a few years ago, lost to Italy. They have the roster, but they have a manager who's an absolute clown. They were supposed to fire Gareth Southgate after the last World Cup. They performed well, but they didn't go to the final in the last World Cup. They got stopped by France. And again, they kept Gareth Southgate around. And look, he's not a bad manager in the sense where, tactically speaking, he's not a bad manager. What he's bad at is picking, he picks favorites. That's his big problem. He picks favorites, and he tends to keep more talented and deserving players off the pitch, and that has hurt them in the past. Like, for example, obviously he didn't have a great season, but he kept Marcus Rashford off the squad completely for this year's Euro Cup. As bad as of a season he had over at Man United, Marcus Rashford is a phenomenal player, and he's a young player. He is a very good talent to have, and the fact that you've omitted him completely from the squad, I can find 2 or 3 players you could replace him with. So it's just clown moves like that, which makes me think England can't be taken seriously with Southgate at the helm. And then the third favorite here, Germany, plus 550. I think the only reason they're getting such a favorable price is because they're hosting the tournament. Germany hasn't done anything in years. Go check. They failed to make it out of the group stage at the last World Cup. They I think they got knocked out in the first knockout stage of the last Euro Cup. They failed to make it out of the group stage at the World Cup before that. So this is now, we're talking systemic, the last 3 international competitions, systemic poor failure. Not to mention Germany had automatic qualification for this as the host nation.
Right.
So they're coming off their last meaningful tournament, the last time they actually played a match that mattered, where the other was trying to beat them, was the group stage at the World Cup they failed to get out of. And since then, they've fired their head coach. So they haven't really, they're in a transitioning phase with the new head coach, and they might have a different team than they did under Hansi Flick, and maybe this manager's better, but they're still untested. They haven't really played in a meaningful match since that failure at the World Cup. And frankly, when I look at the roster, I mean, we're still rolling guys like Thomas Mueller out. He's a great player, but Thomas Mueller's past your prime. And Füllkrug, look, I love Füllkrug. He doesn't move the needle for me as a world-class striker. So it's just something where I look at the roster, the defense is washed, the squad is somewhat aging, and I don't think this German team is a real threat.
Well, you brought up the point in the pre-show we were talking. You said that you like this, you like Scotland as a plucky group there. Uh, Given what you said, should we be surprised if Scotland beats Germany to open the cup?
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all. Like, again, Germany, the host nation, they're a minus
Mhm.
400 in this game. And a lot of people think, oh, it's going to be amped. It's opening night. It's going to be a packed house. Look,
Mhm.
I've seen it many times where the host nation fails. Qatar didn't win their first match at the World Cup in
Right.
2022. There's been many examples of when that's happened. So
Mhm.
I'm not convinced, even at the Women's World Cup, Australia, I believe
Mhm.
they drew in their first
Yeah,
match.
they
They
did.
were hosting the thing. So, and they were, again, minus 275 favorites. So, look, this is one where I don't think people realize the first match is the most dangerous match of the tournament
Mhm.
because that's when you can catch a team off guard. They haven't really settled into the tournament, the style of play. It's very different. You have 3 matches to get out of the group. You cannot afford to drop points in any match. It's
Mhm.
there's very fine margins of error.
Mhm.
And that's the thing. You can catch a team off guard, especially a team like Germany, who hasn't played in a real match. I really don't care that you beat, a team in a friendly 4-1. That means nothing to me until I see you play in a meaningful competition, which you haven't done so. This is absolutely a match that they could catch them off guard. Scotland beat Spain
Mhm.
in the Euro Cup qualifiers over the
Mhm.
last year. So yeah, Scotland hasn't been great in their last few matches, and people are going to look at that and think they don't have a chance here because they've lost something like 4 of
Mhm.
their last 5. 2 of those were friendlies. The other 3, in the Euro Cup qualifiers, they had already clinched a spot,
Mhm.
they had already clinched a spot to the tournament by that point because they won the first 6 of the group. So
Right.
look, this is a dangerous match for Germany on opening night. That's all I'm going to say about that one.
Well, I'm going to get you to say something else real quick. Now, you'd mentioned that the star of this Scottish team is someone who, it was a Man United didn't fans might not have been so keen on, but they may take a second look after the way he plays for Scotland.
Yeah, and he's a great example because he has been a bench player at Manchester United for the last 2 years.
I didn't say his name. Please go ahead and tell us who it is. So I didn't reveal the guy's name, so
Yes,
please do me a
yes,
favor
yeah.
and do that.
Scott McTominay. Look,
There you go.
he's been he's been on the bench at Manchester United. Like, yeah, he gets a start here and
It's
there, but
McTominay. Is that the name of
McTominay.
the McTominay? Okay.
Yeah, McTominay, and this guy, look, he's a phenomenal player, and you don't see it much at Manchester United because he doesn't get much playing time there. There's a lot of talent on the team, especially at his position in the midfield. They got guys like Casemiro. They don't need Eriksen. They don't really need him on to start, but he absolutely, when you watch him play for his country, this guy is unbelievable. He's a big reason why Scotland came out and won their first, 6 matches of the Euro qualifying group stage. Why they got themselves in such a position. Why they were able to beat Spain. This guy has galvanized their attack. They have phenomenal attack with him on the field. And again, you're not going to see these things at Man United. You're only going to see it when you watch him play for Scotland because that's where he's a starter. That's where he gets the playing time, and that's where he plays his ass off and brings his best effort because the team believes in him and he goes 100% for them. So I'm telling you, Scotland, Scotland's a dangerous team in this group. They're in the same group as Germany, obviously, but look, I've already voiced why I think the Germans aren't going to do well. And you know who else is in that group? Hungary. Germany hasn't beaten Hungary in a meaningful match in 3 straight meetings over the last 3 years. So we're talking about recent meetings between Germany and Hungary. They can't even beat them. And everybody's just going to write off, Germany's beating Hungary in the group. They're getting full 9 point. No, Scotland can take points from Germany. Hungary can take points from Germany. I would say Switzerland can, because Switzerland's not as bad as people think.
Mm-hmm.
But Switzerland also, they haven't impressed me over the last year, especially in some of their matches against Romania and things like that. They've been on the decline a bit.
Here's Scott's a little bit of Scott's highlight reel for you. Thought you might want to take a look and see that he scored that one for the parking lot. Okay,
Yeah,
so
and these are the things he does, right? It's all about it's all about positioning on the pitch. He knows what his role is, and look, he doesn't get the
big
playing
dude.
time. Yeah, he doesn't get the playing time for United, but he gets the playing time for Scotland, and it's going to show in this Euro Cup.
All right, cool. All right, there we go. All right, now moving on. We've got the situation where we've got what was I about? Oh, I'm sorry. What I was about to say was the scouting aspect of the transfer portal, or transfer window. I'm sorry. Who are some of the people we should be looking out for moving day here prior to that? Mbappe for sure, but
Yeah,
who else is going?
He's the big one right now, because he is in essence a free agent. He can go wherever he wants. His contract is expired. It's a free transfer, as we call it in the soccer biz, but over here in North America, he's a free agent essentially and could go anywhere. But
so Orlando is where he's going to come and going, right?
Yeah, right. Well, that's what I was saying about Ronaldo with his. Obviously, he took the money to go play for Al Nassr, but
right,
it hasn't been going well for him in Saudi Arabia. Let's just say in 5 matches, they haven't beaten Al Hilal, who's the dominant team in the league. They usually, represent at the AFC Champions League. So Al Hilal is the team to beat. So far since Ronaldo got there, they're not moving the needle against Al Hilal. So if he's done after 2 years there, when his contract expires, because really it was right after the World Cup when that happened. So his contract, I believe, expires in the winter transfer window or later this year. But that would be the move for me. I think is try to bring Ronaldo to Orlando and get the Messi Ronaldo rivalry back going. We've mentioned this, man. Bring Neymar. Neymar's not doing anything, man. He's been celebrating his sister's birthday for the last straight year. Like he's literally hasn't played in any games. So someone make a call to him. You can have some of the best South American players playing down in Florida for sure.
There you go. Just for the record, because, I think the same could be said of, with the situation with Miami, right? And all of the stars they've got. Ronaldo has cashed checks so far, okay, of $600 million. So I think if he felt like, saying, maybe I'm going to get in on this, this MLS deal and just see what it's like and have some fun, and sell some more jerseys and make some more money in that aspect of it, it might not be a bad move for him to come to the MLS.
Yeah, no, 100%. He loves cashing his check. That's definitely one thing Ronaldo likes to do. So at this point, man, you went to Saudi Arabia because nobody else wanted you and they had all that money to give you. If somebody in the States wants you, and you still want to keep playing, I don't know what you're doing. You have to go at this point because I don't know who else is going to take you.
Right. But think of this, okay? Most athletes, and certainly most soccer players, have an ego. And if people aren't coming out to see them anymore, that ego gets hurt. You got to believe that Ronaldo lands on an MLS team, wherever that MLS team may be, that he'll have the same kind of effect, that Lionel Messi has. They'll be coming out to see him play. And once again, you'll see a stadium full of his shirts. That's not going to happen if he goes back and plays in Europe again.
Yeah, and right, that's the thing. He left because he wasn't feeling loved
Mhm.
anymore. He went to Saudi
Right.
Arabia because they did want him, and that's great. Look,
Yeah.
hell, I
Mhm.
was shocked the other day. I was at the mall up here,
Mhm.
and there was a kid wearing an Al Nasser jersey. Kid was like 6 or 7 years old, and I couldn't
Right.
believe my eyes. I go, we're still buying Ronaldo's jersey even when he plays for Al Nasser. So that'll go to show you. And
Yeah.
look, it's great because if he comes to the MLS, it's no competition. Trust me when I say
Right.
that. Because if you're a Messi fan, you hate
Mhm.
Ronaldo, and if you're a huge Ronaldo fan, you hate Messi. So it's
So
like two
you
different
can't lose.
groups.
You can't.
Exactly right. He could do the same numbers as Messi, but it would be a completely different group of people.
Right. And that's what you want to do. You want to get these guys, and you can have Neymar. You can, you know, his sister can come to the United States and they can have birthdays every week if they want.
Yes, and unlike Messi, Ronaldo actually speaks English, so you
Yeah.
get that bonus as well. He doesn't refuse to learn the language.
Right. Right. Well, here's the thing. Messi does speak English. He just doesn't choose to speak English. Okay.
I know, and everybody's freaking out because they heard him say an English line, in I forget he was in
Oh,
some
those.
he
He's
made
in
like
a.
a cameo in a
He's
movie
in
or
a.
something.
He's in a. Shoot. He is in a Hard Rock Cafe. Um, the Hard Rock hotels.
Yeah,
He,
yeah, yeah.
he's in a Hard Rock hotel commercial,
That's what it is, right? And
and
he
he
says an
says
English
he
line.
delivers a line in it, and
Yeah,
you're
people
like,
were shocked because you never hear him speak English. Because
right,
look, he might know the language, but he chooses not to speak it, which is a little interesting. But anyway,
yeah. I mean, so yeah, he for the cash, he learned the line. Okay, so there you go. That was that. But no, I think this is the opportunity. I mean, I hate to go back in time, but back in the NASL, I mean, that's what they did. They brought in Giorgio Canaglia. Giorgio at the time, he was a kind of loved person, but at the same time, there's he wasn't drawn the big the big money or the big following and in playing in Italy. So he came here. Same thing happened. Pele came because he thought that would be a good move for him. And Johan Cruyff came from over in Holland, and the whole situation of players on the back end of uh, their careers came here to play, and everybody loved it.
yeah, and look, there's two ways to look at it. Yeah, you can look at it like, oh well, they're on the back end of their career and they only came here because no one else wanted them. But you can also look at it like, they spent their whole career over in Europe. Like
Right.
people have seen them for the last 2 decades. They
Hmm.
don't want to see him anymore because there's young guys like Mbappe and all the
Hmm.
kids that are starting to come up, Holland and all the Jude Bellingham. So this is what I mean. And yeah, maybe they're past their prime when they come here, but this is a whole group of people that didn't get to watch them and go see them play in
Hmm.
person for 20 straight years. So it's still a nice experience to see, Messi or Ronaldo in person playing for the team you cheer for on top
Right.
of that.
Well, and at the same time, you're developing a league because those
Exactly.
guys those guys are teaching the players on their team how to be better.
Exactly. We've talked about my man
Yeah.
Julian Gressel over at Miami. Nasty kid.
Yeah. Yeah. What you want is you want to be able to, you know, the last thing you want to do, and this is in all sports, is embarrass yourself, on the same field with a somebody you idolize, and you're going to play to a higher level. It's going to force you to become better, because otherwise, guys like Messi or Ronaldo or whomever, they're not going to not only pass you the ball, they're not even think about you. So yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But there might be some interesting pickups by the MLS from what happens in the off season here,
Yeah,
because
no, definitely.
everybody has it, is on the back end of the career sometime.
Yeah, 100%. You're gonna the MLS will they'll be looking at the Euro Cup and hell,
Mhm.
definitely the Copa America. It's in their own backyard this year,
Right.
so I don't see why they wouldn't be looking. It's gonna be running the same time as right down the street from an MLS team while they're playing. So yeah, absolutely, they're gonna have an eye on the Copa America. Maybe the eyes should be off the pitch though, just because a
Mhm.
guy like Edinson Cavani, he just retired for
Mhm.
Uruguay. He's not going to be in the Copa America now. Obviously, he's playing for his childhood club there, Boca Juniors, so it's going to be
Mhm.
hard to pry him away from there. But you never know, man. You never know.
Mhm. Well, again, it's the marketplace, right? You want to be in a marketplace where you can maximize your brand, and that's really what is what the MLS can offer. I mean, they're not going to offer better soccer, but they can offer the world's largest uh, you know market from a standpoint of purchasing things. So if you want to be a star in a league where the world is learning about soccer more, go for it. That would be fun to have. Remember with the Rowdies in Tampa Bay, Rodney Marsh was had he basically played for Crystal Palace and pissed off everybody in the English Premier League. So it wasn't tough for Rodney to leave. I'm sure that about 400 people would have driven him to the airport. But once he got in the United States, he got he was on a group. The name of the team was the Rowdies. I mean, so that fit his personality perfectly. He's still there are people still talking about the day that Rodney got ticked off at one of the when the referee, and as he turned and mooned him, literally pulled his shorts down and mooned him in front of 40,000 people, and the place went nuts. He got a red card, but the place went went nuts. Um, by the way, doing TV that time was we had an announcer who had a little bit of problem explaining what was going on the field, but things happen. Uh, so yeah, I mean, you want those kind of personalities to come and to play for your team because sports has always been and always will be a personality driven industry.
Yeah, absolutely. And you always get characters like that.
You hope if you're lucky you get characters like that. You do. You want that. You want those players that can give you that color, that brashness. Like Bryce Harper in Philadelphia. Nobody plays harder than Bryce, and the fans enjoy it and appreciate it.
Yeah, it makes for good
Yeah,
entertainment.
right. I mean, you're paying that money. You want to see somebody who cares as much about the game as you do.
Oh, 100%.
So there you go, boys and girls. Speaking about caring as much as you do, it's Amadeus. It's your time to tell us what you care about today in the show box below.
Yeah, make sure you check out my premium picks at bigowl.com, pickadvisor.com, and theinsidersroom.com. The links are in the description below. I just got two plays today, one on the pitch in Argentina that you can go grab. I'm coming off a 5-2 day on the pitch yesterday, so go check that out. And I also have one play up in cricket, the T20
Ooh,
World
okay.
World Cup that's being hosted in the USA as well. That's going on. I'm perfect 2-0 with my totals in the tournament. I had the under in the Oman Namibia match last night, and I had the over in the Canada USA match on opening night. So go check out my cricket action on the pitch for tonight.
Cool. Well, let me ask you a question. How do you bet on cricket?
It's very complicated sport, and there's a lot to take into account when handicapping it.
I would think.
Yeah, there's a lot of it's tough to bet on sides because a lot of the favorites are very juiced, so you have to
Mhm.
try and bet on totals. But totals can be difficult because if the
Oh my
wrong
God.
team starts, right, like earlier there was a game between Sri Lanka and and South Africa, and like Sri Lanka only scores 77 runs in their half, then South Africa, I think they won the game with 80 or 81, because all you need to do is beat the other team, right? So it can really
Right.
affect the total. There's a lot really to take into account with cricket.
I know that it's a very complicated sport from scoring wise. I mean, not to
Yes.
play it, but to score on scoring wise. And so, yeah, I would imagine it'd be very difficult to handicap.
Yeah, it's actually, hitting is pretty easy. If you're there, if you're learning to play the sport,
Mm-hmm.
it's very easy to learn how to hit the ball. I
Yeah.
think personally, I think what's tougher is the stance and the positioning you have to take on defense, because there's a lot of
Mm-hmm.
ground you have to cover, and you have to cover 360 degrees basically. But I
Right.
think from an offensive standpoint, learning to hit the ball is easier than learning how to hit a baseball.
Well, I was going to say, if you played baseball, because I had a friend, Douglas Mountbatten Hoyt from Jamaica, who uh, he, basically, I wanted to recruit him for our softball team on when we worked together at the TV station, and he said, "Fine, I'll play softball, but you have to play cricket." And I said, "Okay, fine." I mean, I was desperate to get him on the team, and so I learned how to play cricket. And to your point, it was much easier to hit a cricket ball than it was to hit a baseball.
Yeah,
And
100%.
there was kind of like in some regards, because of the way you swing, it was almost like a combination of baseball and golf, because the
Yeah,
ball is
it
very
is.
low. So
100%, right? It's more of
yeah,
a golf swing motion. And with
right.
what makes cricket fun is you can hit it behind you, to the side, right back,
Doesn't matter
forward.
where it goes, right?
That's why I say it's harder to play defense, because you have to learn the positioning and things like that. And you have to be ready to catch the ball if it goes flying your way. You never know when it's going to go flying your way.
Well, that was the thing that I was asking Doug whenever, I said, "Well, they fouled that off." He goes, "No, they didn't foul that off. You got to catch that. Don't let
That's
it
four
fall.
runs.
You're right. Don't let that run. Don't let that drop." So it's like, oh, okay. And so yeah, it's actually once you play it, you realize why people have fun with it.
Yeah, 100%.
So there you go. All right, everybody. Well, speaking of having fun, we had fun today on Monday. We'll be back here on Tuesday. We'll take a look at Major League Baseball tomorrow, see what's going on, because we're cruising toward that halfway point in Major League Baseball. And there are teams that are really beginning to heat up. So we'll have to see how that whole thing plays out, and we'll get there. But until that time, we're going to leave you with check out the show box below. Get a chance, do us a favor, leave us a comment. Hit the subscribe button and hit the bell so you know when we're going to be on every day, sometime a little after 2 o'clock each day. All right, everybody? Till tomorrow. For Amadeus, I'm Jim. Take care. Bye-bye.